Hello, everyone. I am finally sitting down to share my thoughts on the Eurovision Song Contest 2022. I know that this video is severely delayed. Unfortunately, COVID came for me. I was out of commission for a little bit, and unfortunately, I was not able to get this video made until now. The song contest was like a week and a half ago now, so I was debating whether I was going to end up making this video, but I just felt like, you know what, it might be a little shorter than I would have normally made it, but I still wanted to just hash out my thoughts because I was going to make a video where I just summarized all of my thoughts and reactions to what went down, not just in the grand final, but in the two semis that week. Because Eurovision, it's a staple on my channel, and I just can't go without talking about it or mentioning it. And I was definitely glued to the screen that week. So I am going to start by talking about semifinal one, and then kind of just go through here. And I'm not going to spend too much time talking about each individual performance. I'm really just going to share like what were my highlights, what were my like takeaway thoughts from each night of the competition. Obviously, this contest was held in Turin, Italy. If you were in the US, we got to watch the coverage this time for the first time with an official US commentator with NBC, Peacock. They had Johnny Weir, the Olympic figure skater. They had him commentating for the broadcast. And of course, I liked how last year we just got the Peacock stream, but we didn't have any commentary. This time, NBC had to throw a little bit of that extra flavor into it, which honestly, I could have done without. I think a lot of people agree that it was just kind of annoying. Nothing against Johnny Weir, but having him in the broadcast, just for Eurovision fans, if you're watching, especially the semis, you know all this stuff. Like, yeah, there were some interesting trivia facts he spouted out. He was mostly talking during the postcards, the pre-act kind of little videos that they put together where they show shots of Italy and they talk a little bit about the artist. So we didn't get to actually hear any of the audio for that. It was him talking over the visual for that. So it was a bit unfortunate. It took a little bit away from the whole postcard thing that usually you get to enjoy with each act. And it's just unnecessary. But like, I also understand why they did it. NBC is really trying to, and Eurovision itself is really trying to globally brand itself. Obviously, we now have the American Song Contest on NBC. And can I just say, I was actually very surprised how little promotion there was for the American Song Contest, or even people talking at all about Eurovision Canada, which is supposed to come next year. I was expecting to see full-on advertisements for it, possibly even on the Eurovision stage itself, particularly during the grand final. As far as I'm aware, the broadcast didn't really mention any of it. I think Johnny Weir might have mentioned the American Song Contest in passing to the American viewers, which granted, those are the people who do need to see it. I mean, people in Europe, it's not really that relevant to them. But I did find it interesting that, the spin-off franchises that Eurovision is being taken into different markets wasn't as advertised as I thought it would be during the grand final. I also thought that maybe Alexa, who won the American Song Contest, they did make a video about it when that finished, or make that video about that a couple weeks ago if you want to check it out. It was before the final. Yes, I guess I'll just touch on, Alexa won with Wonderland for Oklahoma. Yay for Alexa. Good for her. I'm glad K-pop won, especially in a Rust Belt state like Oklahoma. It's the one sort of like unpredictable aspect of something that you could throw in America as a song contest where country usually tends to dominate. So I liked seeing that. I was surprised that they didn't spotlight her at all in the contest. Like, there wasn't like a little video shout out where she did a little message to the green room or something. Like, I thought there would be just like a little segment, but during the Turin presentation, but no, they kept that out of that, which I just thought was very interesting. Of course, they did talk about Eurovision at the American Song Contest. They did say, make sure to tune in to Peacock and NBC. We're going to have the stream. So they did try to plug it through, the American Song Contest. They just didn't do it vice versa, which I just thought was very interesting. And of course, most of us are wondering, is the American Song Contest going to be renewed? I think we can err on the side of yes, but it's not a given, given that the ratings were pretty poor. But I also felt like it ran the contest at a poor time of the year. It was competing with American Idol season. I made that clear in that video. It should have been done during the summer. Once Eurovision's done, we're in the off season. Now we could be a little bit more interested in something else, but be that as it may, it was at the same time, because we had semifinal one the night after the grand final, the American Song Contest. Now, semifinal one, we had 17 countries performing. They are up on the screen here. I already made my initial sort of reaction video to all of the entries that were competing in semifinal one. I will link that in the description if you're interested in seeing a little bit more of an in-depth thought process on what I thought about each song and some predictions about how well they did. But ultimately, the 10 acts that were confirmed were the following. And to be completely honest with you, I wasn't really too disappointed with the end result with semifinal one. I was certainly happy to see Latvia not go through. I'm sorry, I know I've seen some people praise Latvia's entry with Eat Your Salad, Siti Zeni. But we need to remember at the end of the day that this song was very crude for Eurovision. The lyrics were certainly not family friendly. Not just that, but they were also, I just think, in poor spirit. I feel as though I'm leaning a little bit more, and especially kind of just looking up things about Siti Zeni, I'm leaning more towards they're taking the piss out of something that is kind of political, that is kind of making it sort of like, okay, you're kind of like poking fun at the cause that you care about, which is environmentalism, being green. They're taking it to a level where it really does kind of just feel like, at least to me, this is how it comes across to me, as just parody and punching down. I know that's a little extreme for me to say. I didn't find their song funny. I didn't really find anything humorous about it. I kind of always sensed a little bit of I know most people are probably going to come for me for this, but I sensed a little bit of, I don't know, like kind of bitterness to their lyrics. I'm not vibing with it. The guys in the press running up to it, they were so obviously about having a good time. And look, we need to have a good time at Eurovision, but we had Subwoofer. Like Subwoofer went through from semifinal one, which was definitely important. We didn't need it. We didn't need it. They did put on a, instrumentally competent performance. Like the instrumental was pretty strong. Their stage presence was great. I didn't really doubt that. There were definitely some fan favorites who I think in terms of stage presence and vocals and overall choreography and styling that I do think flopped. And that's where I'm going to get to the big the big surprise non-qualifier from semifinal one, where I'm going to talk about Albania, who opened up the show. Boy, a lot of people were upset that Ronella did not qualify with Secret. To be completely honest with you, I was a bit shocked because I think we were all thinking Albania was a shoo-in. We were all kind of talking about it based on the track record of Albania lately, and we were just like, of course they're going through. They might not like get top 5 or anything like that, but we knew they were going through. So to have them not qualify, to have Ronella not qualify, it was kind of like, oh, wait a minute, okay. This isn't as, when you send stuff like this to Eurovision, it's not always the safest thing. But we got to be honest with ourselves. The performance was a mess. The staging, the choreography, the styling was really off. She seemed to be in sort of like lingerie, like almost like nightwear, kind of like bathrobe-y kind of outfit that was like pink and girly, which really didn't vibe with what the dancers were wearing. And it also didn't really vibe with, kind of the energy and the visuals that we got from the music video, just like this dark, seductive power pop track. Everything about it was just all over the place. The camera angles, it was just not a polished performance. And unfortunately, I actually do agree that it probably shouldn't have gone through. It is unfortunate that there were a couple acts that obviously some people would have not put through that ended up going through. I think the biggest surprise, and I think it was the first one that they announced for the qualifications, was Switzerland. They were the biggest upset. Marius Bear with Boys Do Cry. You know what? I will admit, I don't think that this song is strong. However, I do think it was given a little bit too much of a bad rap going in. I think everyone was discounting it, and I was like, it's still a really good melody, and he still has a pretty good voice. It's husky, and it's emotive. Like, I don't know, like, we're praising Nadir, but we're not giving him any coins. Like, I don't know. At the end of the day, Azerbaijan and Switzerland ended up having a similar result, at least with the public, for sure. They got a bit of a reckoning. Switzerland got 0 points from the public, and I think Azerbaijan got maybe 2 or 3. Yeah, so they were rated high by the juries, but obviously, but if you look at the actual results for semifinal one, which were released after the contest, Switzerland barely made it in. I mean, they came in ninth spot. The 10th spot went to Iceland. Iceland really just barely grabbed that last spot. And to be honest, I was happy that Iceland went through, but their final result at the grand final, I must admit, I'm not surprised. And I'll talk more about Iceland. Actually, I might as well just mention them all as I go through here. Iceland, I I wanted to support this group. I really did. I was trying very hard to get into the song. As a fan of like Icelandic folk stuff, I just couldn't get into it. They weren't really selling that much emotion on stage. They came across very robotic. In fact, one of the singers, it was almost bordering on self parody in how she kept this kind of frozen expression, the smile as she was strumming the guitar. So the stage presence was just a little bit off. The way they were configured on stage, and it just didn't. I didn't feel the synergy in the way that I think the song, but it was a bit of a sleepy song, and it didn't help in the running order at the grand final. I mean, it was sandwiched amongst, I think it was next to Belgium, and it was next to some other entries that people were just not probably very engaged with. And then of course we had Moldova come right after, which there was a fun meme I saw about how that train was going to be like a freight train coming at the audience. Moldova qualified with Job's entry, and not a surprise. This was a fan favorite. Obviously, it really stole away with the public vote. I think it got like number 3 or 4 position in the public vote in the grand final. So it really did take that, energy and fun, campy atmosphere that Eurovision is known for to that level that it needed. Personally, the performance didn't do anything for me. I mean, I love to see an accordion. Love to see an accordion. The guy kind of looked like, I don't know, he like Tim Allen in a windbreaker, like kind of doing his weird dance. Like it was very boomer dancey, but it was meant to be that way. It was fun. It was a fun folk ethnic moment on stage. So honestly, all of the other qualifiers made sense to me. The only other one I was a little surprised by was Armenia. Personally, I would have put Croatia in Armenia's spot. If we're dealing with a kind of sing-song, singer-songwriter, lighthearted female anthem, I would have definitely chosen Croatia. I thought Mia Dimjic had a much more compelling melody and an interesting sort of choreographed piece with the dancers in the background. Armenia's entry with Rosalind, I think it was the staging that maybe just drew people to it and jurors. I think the whole post-its on the wall and then that all circle thing where she tries to come out, it worked a lot better in the grand final performance. There was some issues with it in the semi. But she still made it through, and good for her, but it was not a song I was expecting to qualify. All of the other entries were surefires. I mean, Denmark, oh, come on, I didn't see a route for that one. Austria was the other big surprise, but I wasn't surprised. But a lot of people were. A lot of people were probably very upset. And yeah, I would have probably put Austria in over Switzerland at the end of the day, but I could see why the vocals were they were a little harsh. They weren't supported very well. I think the cool radial circular light show around her was really cool, but some people argued it kind of like blocked her off from the audience. I don't know. You can say a lot of reasons why it didn't work. I think at the end of the day, it was Czech Republic in semifinal 2 kind of needing to take that spot. We couldn't have both of those songs. And then Bulgaria, we weren't checking for that one. And Slovenia, my LPS disco, they actually came in the very bottom of this semifinal. They only got 8 votes from the televote, and the jury rated them a 7. So wasn't too good. They were the only ones to be both single digits with the jury and the televote in that running semifinal. So LPS was the youngest group to perform, and they deserved to get a mention for that. I think the telecaster for the jury in the grand final mentioned that. They were cute, but it was a little rough. It was a little amateur. Moving on to semifinal 2. These results were definitely a little bit more, people were really mad about semifinal 2. I mean, if people were upset about semifinal 1, people were really mad about semifinal 2. There were definitely, like, Sweden was a no-brainer. Leaving Serbia to the very end was certainly a choice, but I actually happened to see a spoiler when I was watching the broadcast because I had to watch it a little later, just because of the time zones in the US. When I actually watched the broadcast, I watched a replay of it. So I knew Serbia was going through, but if I hadn't known and that like long dragged out silence with Serbia, it was like, please, we need Serbia in this final. Like, as ultimately we got in the top 5, which was more than I could ever thought I could have asked for. But Constrata did the damn thing. I wasn't surprised about Estonia. I wasn't surprised about Czech Republic. I wasn't. Poland definitely deserved to go through. But when Finland went through, I was disappointed. Again, it's like CT Zeni. It's like, was it technically pretty polished as a performance? I guess. But that performance ain't for me. That's a bathroom break. Finland's song and the staging and the styling was just the Pennywise thing. Why did we need to go that route with the black balloons? I didn't understand it. His haircut and his stage presence was just very strange to me. It was punk rock, but the song is kind of much more pop rock. And I didn't really like, I don't know, it wasn't serving anything that captivated me about his aura or presence. I just was turned off by the whole thing. I don't know. One of the guys in the background looked like Elon Musk on the guitar or something. That's the biggest thing I keep thinking about. But Finland didn't need to go through. Come on. But then Belgium, that was, I think, the first one that they announced too. So semifinal 1 and 2, they both came late. Belgium was number 8 in this semi in terms of ranking. Switzerland was number 9. So these two were definitely not high rankers for the semis, but they put them as the first ones to announce, which of course are in no particular order. And bless Jeremy, but that song was not it. I think everyone was collectively shocked that this one qualified. I gotta be honest with you, maybe I shouldn't say this. The diversity quota for this year's contest is certainly lacking compared to like more recent years. It has to be said. And Jeremy was the only person of color in the semifinals because Malik Harris was in the grand final. He automatically qualified. And the only other person of color that I think you could argue, well, there was Mahmoud, but he was also an automatic qualifier. So in the semis, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was very white. And I hate to say it, but I kind of feel like the juries may have pushed Belgium through for the diversity quota, like for the final. Just for optics. I hate saying that because it does kind of, but I think a lot of people would probably agree. The jury ended up giving them 105 points when, they only got 46 from the televote. So that's a big discrepancy. Almost none of the other acts have such a, well, Azerbaijan got 96 from the jury and 0 from the televote. So Azerbaijan definitely was that was the other qualifier I was going to get to in a second. Azerbaijan, Belgium, and Finland were the 3 I would not have qualified. I mean, Azerbaijan was technically like a good vocal performance. We can't doubt that. I mean, some of those notes, I was like, dang, this guy is singing. This guy is wailing, but like it's on key. But I don't need it. We already have Australia. We already have Poland. They're more engaging songs, and Azerbaijan got whomped in the televote anyway, so they were being set up to fail. But there was also some voting shady things going on with Azerbaijan. I'll get to that at the end. But yeah, no, Belgium, I hate to say it, but I do feel like the diversity thing helped push him over the edge, just a few spots to qualify. I am glad Romania went through. I was a little worried. Okay, so I suppose the WRS singer is Latin, but he's still, it's dubious whether you'd call him a person of color. I'm not sure if you'd call him a person of color. So like technically there's diversity there, but it's a very white, these were very white semifinals. Like, let's be honest, it's a very white contest. But I needed Yamame in the final, like, please. And so the acts I would have put through instead, Cyprus. I was not checking for Cyprus before I watched the semifinal, but when I saw the staging And I saw Ella in that, that Little Mermaid kind of shell stage setup with her dancers, and the costuming and the seductiveness of it, I was entranced. I'm sorry. Like, I became straight for like 3 minutes while I watched that performance. I was like, this looks good. But it wasn't just all about sex. It was a good performance. Personally, I didn't actually, maybe I wasn't paying attention, but I didn't think her vocals were as bad as some people were saying afterwards. They were like, oh yeah, the vocals were trash. Like, she didn't deserve to qualify. And I'm like, well, maybe she did worse in the jury performance. Yeah, were the vocals like they were shaky, and she had a soft voice that was getting drowned out. And that was my biggest concern about Ella's performance. But by Andromache's performance. I'm sorry, I keep calling her Ella, and I forget that that's the song name, and her name is Andromache. Andromache. Sorry, it makes more sense for it to be the other way around because Andromache is such a strange name for me as an English speaker for a woman. But anyway, that performance was kind of iconic, and I was more upset that this performance that this got snubbed than I was for Ireland. Let's talk about Brooke Scullion because people were heated on Twitter. To be honest with you, I was watching with my family, and yes, I'm watching it with very prudish boomers who would never ever listen to this sort of Gen Z TikTok music in their life, but we were all collectively like, this was not a good performance. Like, the vocals, what I was hearing, did not sound strong. There was pitchiness. The choreography and the stage presence, the staging was not at all what I thought it was going to be. I thought there was going to be like a bed on stage, and I thought she was going to have the money gun, and I thought there was going to be like all this stuff going on, a little bit more like Armenia's presentation. And instead, it was just her with her dancers. Like, it was colorful, it was fun. I needed more from it to be memorable. And at the end of the day, I think it really just exposed how bad of a song it was. I was like, wait a minute, why was I gassing this song up? It's really not a good song. It's not. It's not. What were we thinking? What were we thinking? And people are talking about Ireland being discouraged and like Ireland never catching a break. And I'm like, but you send this and you think you're going to be successful? Like, granted, would it possibly deserve to have qualified in this semi? Maybe. I wouldn't have absolutely hated if it had qualified. I mean, especially over, Finland, for example. Finland wasn't doing anything for me. But I understand why it didn't. I really do. I mean, it ended up coming in 15th place, and I would argue that's about accurate. Only Malta, Montenegro, and Georgia. I do have to just mention Circus Mircus. Willy Wonka got up on stage, didn't I had never seen the music video. This was the one song I'd not seen the music video for, but oh my gosh, when they got out that music box and they had the little puppets, I was shook. I was like, look, this song is probably not qualifying material, but for this performance alone, like, I kind of am awake. Like, I'm here. Like, this kind of is almost, this doesn't deserve to be dead last. I really wouldn't have given it dead last spot. I would have given that to Israel or Malta or, I mean, even Montenegro. I feel bad. Vladana, you're trying, sweetie, but it just wasn't there. Same with Andrea with North Macedonia. She almost got in there. She was 11th spot. San Marino. Okay. All right. So I have to repent a little bit because if you've watched my semifinal 2 video and if you saw my 40 song ranking video, you will know that I put Akil Laro's stripper entry pretty low. I still am not a big fan of the song. I really don't. It's not my kind of music. It doesn't have a great chorus. I'm just not into it. Lyrics not connecting with it. But why did I not like fully realize just how sexy Akil Loro was and how great his show performance, kind of his charisma on stage when he got on that bull, but even before the bull riding, when he was just in that outfit, like kind of just showing off his muscles and I was seduced. I was seduced. Okay, so I was straight while I watched Cyprus's performance, and then I turned gay again when San Marino came on because I was like, this is good. This is kind of fun. And I liked how overtly sexual it was. I mean, someone commented, I saw a lot of people saying Eurovision doesn't want sex this year. It was all of the very kind of by the numbers ballads, the emotional kind of stripped back ballad stuff going through. None of the fun party anthems, none of the kind of more sexual stuff. And it's kind of true that if you look at the results of the juries and everything, and it's a shame that San Marino got snubbed. I would have honestly, I mean, maybe I'm just a little biased because I want to see more of him. He just, I don't know. He looked way buffer than I remember seeing him in the national selection performance. Like, I was just like, who is this specimen of a man? Like, I was just into it. I was in the pyrotechnics and the whole thing. Anyway, so yeah, I would have given San Marino a spot over Ireland. Even I just personally, I didn't really get Ireland's appeal. I'm sorry. Like, Brooke is a nice girl. Like, I think she could have been served a much better song. Like, and done something a little bit more. I mean, it was always going to be that immature sort of like aged down song where it almost is like, I don't know how old Brooke is, but it made her sound like she was only 14 years old. Like, she's probably older than that. So it was always going to be, if she gets a song that's a little bit more, I think Malta had a similar issue with Emma Muscat. She was singing a song that aged her down a little bit. And it just lacked a bit of personality, in my opinion. But it also it wasn't a good song. Okay, so Sweden obviously swept this semifinal. Australia, boy, did they have a fall from grace on the grand final stage. It is kind of a bit of a shame. Let's move on to talking about the grand final. Before I do, though, I can't remember which semifinal it was that Diodato performed. Five Rumore. That was the entry that was supposed to go for Italy in 2020. Can we just admit that that was the official winner? I mean, I know it really was on fire by the Roop. Like, let's be honest, it really was. But it's also canonically acceptable to admit that that song, the performance of it during, I think it was semifinal one, that was such a moment. That was such a moment. So moving on to the grand final. I do have to talk about the big five because I didn't mention their performances in the semis. Out of the big five, the one that impressed me the most was Spain. Chanel with Slow Mo. I wasn't surprised that she slayed. The only thing I will say is there should have been an epilepsy warning before that performance because I don't have that as an issue, but I was just like, wow, we're really going there. The strobing was intense for parts of that chorus. But I get why they did it. It's just be careful. Be careful with when you're strobing that much. That was the most polished and slick kind of dance Euro track we've seen on, I don't know, I didn't see in Eurovision. I thought it was absolutely flawless. And it definitely deserved to come in third place. Third place is a good spot for Spain, okay? Especially considering last year they were in the very bottom. I think they were second to last or something, so third to last. So brava to Chanel. Like, come on, we can't, some people are saying she was robbed. I'm like, no, okay, if anyone was robbed, it maybe was the UK, but we'll get to that. Now, I do want to talk about the UK, but first I want to talk about, first of all, Germany, okay? Malik Harris. I'm sorry, people are going to be offended, but that song deserved to get, well, it ended up getting 6 points. It got 0 from the jury. Okay. And I'll be honest, I was kind of like, all right, this is good. When I saw we were going through all those 40 countries and not a single country gave points to Germany, I was just like, what you get when you send trash. Now, granted, I wouldn't necessarily call the artist and song trash, but come on, it was so not at the level it needed to be. I mean, the performance was just very filler, college kid just wants to put on a little song for his friends. Like, I don't know. It's just, we're on the Eurovision stage. We're supposed to do something spectacular and something just, I didn't like the song, but the staging really didn't help. The staging really didn't help. It was like Germany was not trying at all. And I think most people can agree. I mean, a lot of people liked the song, but they hated the staging. So I must admit, when they panned Malik and sort of was like, and Germany is in 0, it felt a little cruel that they kept harping on that. They ended up getting 6 points from the televote, so there were no double zeros this year like there were last year, but trust me, there were a few other zeros going out there. Switzerland, Marius Bear. And I mean, I get it. I wasn't really expecting Switzerland to get any televote points. Like, that kind of made sense. Italy was, talk about a mid performance. Like, I don't know what it was. Like, when the song first came out, I was really into it. But then I kind of felt like the song kind of had run its course for me. And I was just kind of more excited by other entries. Did anyone else feel the same way? Like, I loved the styling, especially on Blanco. Like, I thought they had great stage chemistry together. I think the song and it ended up doing pretty well. It came in like 11th or 10th place. Like it's not terrible. For a host country to, the next year place still like that high, it's like actually not very common. So I think that, we can't like give any sort of, we can't say that they were necessarily snubbed, but yeah, I was rooting for them until I sort of forgot about them, which is kind of a shame. But then we do need to talk about France. We need to talk about Foulin, Alvin and Ahez. Look, when I was listening to Studio Cut religiously leading up to this contest, I was sort of gassing them up. But in the final performance, especially watching with my parents, because keep in mind they've never heard the song before, I sort of got why this song came bottom to last, second to last. This song just really didn't, the staging and everything just didn't really translate very well. But I will be honest with you, to like the TV and the viewers, I just think maybe you had to be there. It was such a rave track, and I feel like for Eurovision, where it's just like so kind of like it's a party, but it's not to that level. Like it's another kind of thing, and I think that they lacked the sort of like the Breton thing is really cool, but I hate to say it, but I feel like a country like Ukraine is like more likely to get away with going in like a really strange ethnic route than like a country like France. Mainly because they're a big five and people are sort of like, like it's a shame because to be completely honest with you, I really don't like that France is probably taking this as a sign that they need to go in a generic route again. Like, we're going to get Tom Leb singing in front of the Eiffel Tower again. Like, no, we need to keep doing things in like lesser known languages. We need to do things that are different, that are like folksy, that are like interesting, mystical, or something regional. We need to do that and something risky and artistic because that's what I want from Germany. Oh my God, could you imagine if Germany picked an act from like, I don't know, like the Black Forest region, and it was like a Swabian, like really ethnic, like midsummery kind of like folk jam. Could you imagine how cool that would be? I mean, granted, it still could flop, but I would be supporting it at least. I really want to see Germany go that route. I want to see every country go that route because they can all do something really interesting. It's a shame that it flopped. I don't think it deserved to come like very bottom, like at the very bottom. I mean, the juries, I think they got like 1 point from the jury, or I don't know. They got like a couple, maybe four. They didn't get very much. So yeah, France flopped a lot. But like, what are you going to do? People were just confused by that performance. It was like, I don't know. I just think it didn't have the energy that people were like responding to. Similar problem with Iceland. Like it's like they were almost robotic on stage. I mean, there was a lot of movement, but they weren't engaging with the audience in a way that I think was engaging people. I don't know. I'm trying to read into it, but I'm not surprised that France kind of flopped at the end of the day. But let's talk about the UK because Sam Ryder with Spaceman really took it home. Now, his performance was good. I personally am like not like the most blown away by like a guy at a guitar with like kind of simple staging. Like people are saying this was really good staging for the UK, and I'm like, yeah, but there are more interesting shows being put on. But at the same time, like you can't deny the musicianship. You cannot deny the songwriting. You cannot deny the vocals, the styling. He looked so good in his silver jumpsuit kind of at get up with his long hair. I mean, what this was a winning package, and there was a moment during the results where I was like, the UK is actually going to win this. The UK is actually going to win this. Keep in mind, it has been since 1998, I believe, since the UK has ever even been in the top five of Eurovision or top three. In Spain, I think it's been since 1996 or something, like even longer. So this is huge. This is like 25 years in the making of a comeback. The UK could have won this and I wouldn't have been upset. This is of course the big part where I talk a lot about, the ultimate winner of this contest and Ukraine winning. What do I think about that and everything? Well, the first thing I want to say is that I don't want to hear the Ukraine only won because of the war takes. And I especially don't want to hear Ukraine should have been disqualified because of the war takes. Okay? No, that's not what we're doing. Okay? Ukraine 100% deserved to be here. I am so happy that the members of Kalush Orchestra were actually able to be on stage. They were able to leave the country. I mean, talk about like putting perspective for all these musicians. I'm not saying any of these other musicians are not noble or like brave or any of that, but they were in a difficult position and they have to go back and serve their country in the military. Like it's really, it's like it's a bitter pill to swallow. But like you cannot deny how badly Ukraine needed this morale boost. I mean, reading about just people in Kiev and all over the country, and in the diaspora, just like in sometimes like, bunkered down, like afraid of bombs, just watching the contest and then seeing them win and feeling just like so proud and the moment of like solidarity that the world was showing them for that. It was emotional, and it was sort of like, how could this not be the outcome? But I do want people to understand that I get it that not everyone, Stephania is not going to be everyone's taste. My brother, who doesn't really follow the contest, and I like to think that he's somewhat into different kinds of music, he hated this song. He was like, he messaged me later. He was like, Arthur, that song was terrible. I'm actually kind of mad now that Ukraine won. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that's a good song. If you watched my 40 song ranking video, guess what song I had at number one? I had Stephania, okay? Yes, I know they did not technically come in first place in their national final. It was supposed to go to another artist. Forgive me, her name is escaping me. I'm so sorry. Shout out to the artist who was originally supposed to represent. I don't even fully remember why she got disqualified, but there was some chicanery going on with visas and who's been to Russia or who's been to Crimea. And there's always that drama with Vidvir. Oh my God, it's actually kind of a nuts. But for better or for worse, Kalush Orchestra was the representative, and I really hate seeing people slag them off and say that it was undeserved. They didn't even win their national final. Like, Ukraine shouldn't have participated. Like, how are they going to host? Now, granted, how are they going to host? That is a valid question, and that's one I'm definitely kind of pondering. But when they won, it was just like, no. I mean, they got 400 points from the televote. That was like a huge pull. I mean, we could tell with the voting coming in that the votings were, the televotes were all going to Serbia, they were all going to Spain, and they were all going to to Moldova, United Kingdom. But United Kingdom, Moldova, and Serbia actually were the three biggest getters of them. And it was just like, it was just a unanimous, like, against all of these ballads, these melodramatic battles, was like, no, we want this fun stuff. There was such a discrepancy between the jury and the televote, which there often is. I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't too bad because at least the person who got number one in the jury, which was the UK, which, can we shout out UK getting number one in jury? It's a pretty big deal. And then number two overall, it's not that big a discrepancy. I'm okay with these results. I'm not upset at all. Ukraine so deserved this. This is their third win. 2016 was the last time that they won. And yeah, I do wonder what's going to happen next year with them hosting. I mean, President Zelensky has vowed that he will do everything he can to host it there, but I do worry that hosting it in Ukraine is going to have a lot of countries not want to participate for security reasons, and I wouldn't really blame them. It's hard to know. It's a year out, but let's be honest, this war is not going to be over soon. This is going to be a long, drawn out conflict. Unfortunately, it's going to be very messy and it's going to be drawn out. And I don't know. That's a whole other video. But I mean, you might be thinking a year from now, oh, it'll be fine. I mean, even if it's over, it's just the amount of recovery and like effort that's going to be needed. So there are a lot of countries that are considering it. Poland, I think, would be an interesting choice considering they're kind of regionally close and they're neighbors. The UK wouldn't be a bad option because they came in second place. I'm not against, the second place winner taking the spot. That granted, of course, they'll still spotlight Ukraine. They should still have Go A perform as an interval act. Okay. Like, we need Go A on that stage. And Maruv. We need Maruv as well. But I could see the UK hosting, a couple other countries. I mean, Italy has offered, I think, to host it again. To be honest with you, I'm not crazy about that idea, just mainly because I like seeing the contest move from place to place. Like, I don't know. It just, The Netherlands has offered it. I'm like, do we need to go back to the Netherlands? Like, let's go somewhere else. Like, I would love to see it hosted in the UK. I'm not gonna lie, I would love to see it. But I don't know. I would love to see it hosted in Ukraine as well. So yeah, France, a couple of France is really low placings. That's kind of, I mean, I don't know. It's Spain. I don't know what country is ending up going to end up taking it. It's going to be a long time. Someone joked, Netta from Jerusalem. No, you were wrong, girl. Netta's going to predict where it's going to go. No, yeah, no, I really am tired of those takes. Eurovision is so political. It's like, okay, so now we at least have silenced the people who harp on the British stuff about the political thing. Europe hates us because of Brexit. It's like, no, look at the scores. I mean, France gave the UK 12 points. France gave the UK 12 points. Okay, that proves that Brexit is not a thing for this. Okay, like let's be honest. The UK got 12 points from a lot of countries that I was kind of like, wow. Yeah, let's talk about 12 points. Spain was really killing it. I will say, thankfully, the Netherlands, Italy, thank you for giving the Netherlands 12 points because I almost forgot to talk about Deaville with S10. That was the winner song. I just think it was in a stacked competition. It was going to be difficult for her. When she started breaking emotionally at the end of that song, I was like, especially in the semis, I was feeling it. I was really feeling it. I loved the staging. I loved the lighting. I was really a fan of the Dipta, and that song deserved to honestly place higher than it did. Let's talk about Portugal because Mero kind of pulled off a pretty astonishing feat. Portugal did not receive 12 points from any of the juries, but on average, Portugal received a lot of tens and a lot of eights and nines, which meant that Portugal was the highest ranked country to not receive 12 points. And Portugal ultimately ended up finishing in ninth place, which is pretty good. I mean, I don't know. Maro's Saudade, I think the song, I'm just surprised it did so well. That's all I'm going to say. It's definitely a song that is so me and is something that I'm rooting for. But in this contest, I think I put all of my sort of alternative, like, hope of artist that's going to be a little left field in Constrata, and I completely like neglected Maro, and I gave up any hope that she would crack the top 5 or top 10. We knew she wasn't cracking the top 5, but I don't know. She pulled off a pretty impressive feat with garnering over 200 points combined from the jury and televote without actually ever getting 12 points. So I shout out to Maro because I think Portugal is solidifying themselves and being real contenders every year. They're doing really well when they're in the grand final. So the song definitely left me wanting a little bit more at the end of the day. I feel like it was just scratching the surface. It was just scratching an itch that I wanted more existentially from that kind of subtle stuff that they bring, that emotive, subtle female balladry. But Saudade was definitely a contender. Yeah, Australia. It was a shame that Australia only got 2 votes from the televote. That was a shame because they had gotten 123 votes from the jury. That was a little rough. That was a big discrepancy. I think that was our biggest voting discrepancy. And obviously, with Sheldon, his just heart on his sleeve, like telling his story. It's just so emotional. To be completely honest with you, I was a little over it. It's so sappy and kind of like, okay, we get it. But like at the same time, there's always a place for stuff like this. And elegant costuming, really great staging. Okay, so that is, I think, mostly what I have to say. But I do want to comment. I did love the water feature that was around the stage. I definitely wanted to just throw that out there. I think that was a really interesting kind of visual effect to have, especially for the slower songs. I don't know, it just added this ambiance. I love that. I okay, so been some controversy. There's always a postseason with Eurovision, and it's never, there's always controversy. I have not done a ton of research into it, but all I will say is 6 countries are allegedly, basically bribing each other for votes. In the semifinals, there was some, potential skullduggery. look, it's like Cyprus and Greece are always going to give each other votes, right? So we don't bat an eye, but Azerbaijan, these countries, San Marino, Azerbaijan, Georgia, it's all these Eastern European countries, and I feel like we kind of like give them like a harder time about it than we do like the Western ones. There's always a little bit of political and influence there. I don't really know. I don't know. There were some interesting results. I mean, a lot of them voted for Ukraine, but some of them supposedly voted for other countries. Apparently, I think Moldova was supposed to give their 12 points to another country, but they ultimately gave them to Ukraine, and it was a little bit like that wasn't what was supposed to happen. When they had to phone in at the live grand finale, and they had to give some of the votes via Martin Osterdahl, or as I like to call him, Martin Osterdaddy, because man's pretty good looking. I'm sorry, I'm a little thirsty. Forgive me. But they had to change some of the votes. They had to use an aggregate score because they didn't trust their semifinal results. And so, look, there's just always going to be like a little bit of that. Like, what's really going on here thing with the voting. And I do think that every year we always have that, especially with the semifinals. Like, this person, like Azerbaijan, didn't deserve all those, jury votes. Like, where were they coming from? Like, what's going on here? Something's fishy, like we're always going to be a little bit like that. Some people want these countries to be disqualified from the contest. And I'm like, look, I know some people think there are too many countries competing. I actually want more countries competing. I don't want to disqualify anyone. I'm almost like low key a little sad that Russia is no longer participating because, like, last year, I really loved what Russia served us. And trust me, it was not Putin approved. I'm actually surprised that that entry was able to fly because that was a very feminist entry. It was very almost anti Putin without being anti Putin. Um, Russia's sent some great acts. Belarus has sent some great acts. It's a shame that state media has just completely consolidated to the point where there is no way that we can cooperate with Eurovision without using state media. And Hungary is in a similar situation. Want these countries back. I don't want us to be disqualifying more countries. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. People who are a little bit more into like who voted for who and do the. To be honest with you, it's already been a couple weeks. Like I've got other things I need to worry about. So, I'll put up some charts on the screen if anyone is a little bit more interested in jury voting and stuff. But, it's one of those things where I can never remember the details and it goes out in my head like the next day. Like I just can't remember who voted for who. It's just like at the end of the day, it's like it's Eurovision. Like Ukraine deserved to win. And trust me, none of these disputed results would I think actually changed any of the actual grand final results. I don't think people are saying that. So we need to be careful about integrity with the juries, and I do think sometimes the jury results are a little sketchy. But there's a lot of things that are sketchy about organized voting in a lot of different areas, and there's things that I don't know. It's not for me to change, but we'll see going forward if the EBU really takes that a little bit more to heart. Ultimately, I'm just hoping for the best with Kiev next year. With Ukraine, I'm here for for Stefania and that song, and I don't want to hear it if you're allowed to not like the song. It's just people really don't think the song is good, and I'm just like, I love it. I love it. It's the best blend of like ethnic folk band pop that you can get, and the choreography. I mean, let's talk about some of the dancers. We want to like praise Chanel and her dancers, and believe me, that was really good. But like the choreography was also top tier for Ukraine, and the costuming and the staging, like the messaging, the way it was devoted to the mothers of Ukraine. I mean, it's just, yeah, it was a winning package, and we knew that this was going to happen. I mean, I really thought the UK had a shot, but I don't feel the UK was that snubbed. Like, yeah, they technically were, but like, I'm also kind of glad Sweden only came in fourth because I could have seen Cornelia win. That would have been a very safe win. That would have been like, okay, Sweden won again. Oh, they won it with a song that's very jury pleasing. I didn't see it doing that well with the televote, so I knew it wouldn't come in first place. I really just didn't. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't sure. She kind of did have the look and the appeal, but I don't know. I'm happy with fourth for them. Ultimately, Serbia. I'll close with my thoughts on Serbia because I haven't talked too much about it. I just think Constrata is really exciting for Eurovision. You know, I mean, like the Roop, she's actually an artist that I really want to like see their other stuff. Um, and you know, maybe I wouldn't like all of her songs. Like, I'm not like necessarily going to be listening to Incorpore Sano, possibly like ever again, unless I like am watching a Eurovision retrospective. But that doesn't matter because during the contest, I'm rooting for something so off the wall and something so daring and kind of like almost provocative in how performance art it was. I mean, it was really like making the viewer think, you know? I'm glad that they put a lot of the subtitling for the lyrics because it really was necessary for for non-Serbian speakers, because it just, even if you didn't get the full picture, it helped you kind of understand what was going on. And you did need to have a little bit of a foothold in there if you were just coming in blind. But so proud of what Serbia did with this contest. I pulling a fifth place with this song is just like, that almost feels too good to be true for me. I did not expect it to do that well. I really did not. So well done, Constrata. Well done to everyone else on the. Well done to everyone. But you know, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't think it was maybe the strongest year of Eurovision that we've had. I still think like maybe the last few years, maybe it was an overall stronger package. 2019 was so good. Really love 2019. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was necessarily the strongest year we've had in a while, but yeah, Ukraine deserved it. I don't know what else to say. Good for Sam Ryder shutting up those haters at the BBC. Maybe that we'll see some real upward momentum with Eurovision going forward with the relationship that they have with the BBC and everything in the UK, because it's been atrocious. And hopefully Germany maybe starts to be on the upswing as well moving forward, because Germany now needs to have its glow up. Because come on, let's try and have a contest where the big five really all try really hard, not just one or two or three, all of them. So those are my thoughts. What are yours? Leave your whatever you need to in the comments to, you know, express what your favorites were, what your least favorites, biggest surprises. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like I said, all of the stuff I've talked about, like more detailed about each individual song in the semis before they came up, will be linked in the description. And I hope you all have a wonderful, blessed day. Stay healthy, stay safe. COVID is no joke. It's still going around. And I will see you all in my next one. Thanks for watching. Peace, love, and light. Bye.